I really liked the city of Lyon, but after a rest day there, it was time to continue the journey to Santiago. The route out of Lyon and to the city of Astorga was by far the least interesting and least inspiring section of the whole Camino, travelling along busy roads and through uninspiring towns and villages. But one of the bonuses was finding an albergue with a swimming pool to cool off in after a long hot walk. In the town of Puerto de Orbiga, you encounter a very fine medieval bridge which crosses the Orbiga River. This now quiet river carried a much greater flow before a dam was constructed upriver in 1951. The Paso Horonzo Bridge is one of Spain's oldest Gothic spans, which crosses the river. Today, only 4 of its 19 arches are original, but it remains a very impressive sight. Hello, it's day 21 on the Camino, day 21 of walking. I'm heading to Astorga today, and this is the final day of walking in the Meseta. Already the landscape is starting to change, it's becoming a bit hillier, and we're going to be entering into the mountains in a day or two's time, so looking forward to that. You might notice that I've got a slightly different hat on today. My hat went missing yesterday in the hostel. Spent ages searching for it. I don't know what's happened. It's possible someone picked it up by mistake, or at least that's what I'm hoping happened. But upset that I've lost my own hat. I did like that hat, it was a good hat. But I've got this one instead. This had been left in the hostel 5 days earlier by someone else, and so they gave me this hat instead. So at least I've got something to keep the sun off me. Yeah, so day 21 of the Camino. The Meseta officially ends at the town of Astorga, which has a very fine cathedral with an impressive west front. Next to the cathedral, there is the Episcopal Palace, designed by the famous Catalonian architect Gaudi. So there you get a bit of a better picture of the Episcopal Palace and Astorga's cathedral. Lovely little location. So just, you may get a better view of me not being in the way. And a pretty dramatic sky. So here we are inside the Episcopal Palace, designed by Gaudi. So this model gives you a good idea of what it looks like. There's the cathedral. It's got the most spectacular west front. Cloisters, the city walls, and then Gaudi's building, which I have to confess doesn't seem to really fit in with the architecture of the other buildings, but there you go. So here you get a good view of the city walls. So medieval walls but built on Roman foundations, and Gaudi's palace.
Yay. Yeah. Where are you from, Yay?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Oh, it's beautiful, Hong Kong.
So I'm now walking in the mountains, beautiful landscape, much greener up here, slightly reminds me of home, and it's a rather nice little church here. But I just want to show you something that's really, I've noticed a lot on the Camino. So you'd think that along the Camino, ancient pilgrimage route, all the churches would be open, but it's locked. And there's been loads of churches like this all along the Camino. You'd think they'd be open, but they're not, they're locked, which I find really quite sad. But anyway, it is in a beautiful location. One of the most famous landmarks on the Camino Frances route is the Cruz de Ferro, or Iron Cross. Around the base of this cross, a mound has been forming over many years. A legend says that when the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela was being built, pilgrims were asked to contribute by bringing a stone. The tradition is now for pilgrims to bring a pebble or stone with them from their place of origin and place it at the foot of the cross, as a sign of laying down their burdens before Jesus. So I'm staying tonight in Ponferrada on the Camino route, and it is a municipal that's run by the church, and so in the municipal it also has this private chapel. So again, just to show that the albergues really do vary from place to place. Now this is a church-based one with a spectacular painted dome ceiling. So each albergue that you stay in is different. Some are municipals, so this one has 186 beds and it's donation only, so you come in and you decide how much you want to donate for the night. Some charge a fixed price, so last night I was staying in a hostel that charged €22 for the night, but that included dinner and breakfast, which was a great deal. Here they don't offer food, but there is a kitchen. So you know, every municipal, every albergue that you stay in is different. So yeah, this is where I'm staying tonight. Well, in the hostel behind, but as I say, got this little chapel. So walking through some lovely countryside now, back into vineyard country, and if I pan the camera around, you can see some really lovely hills in the distance. They're over 1,000 meters, these hills, but lovely little spot. So it's Wednesday the 22nd of June 2022 and just leaving the town Villafranca, and most people today are going ahead about 28 kilometers. There's quite a steep climb that people are doing. Billy and I, however, decided to only go 17 kilometers to a place called Vega. I think we both probably think that maybe on hindsight we should have been going further, but we've already booked our accommodation. So yeah, most people that we've been travelling with are going further than us, so we're going to be out of sync with them for the next couple of days. But on the route to Vega there is an option. The path splits. You can follow the river and the road down in the valley, or there is an alternative route that takes you up the mountain. And because I'm not going so far today, and because I've got time, I thought I'd take the alternative route, which not many people take. A bit of a steep climb, but that's all good. So yeah, just show the camera, show the view. So the main path follows the valley down there, and I'm heading up there. So yeah, don't know how long it'll take, but as I've got the day, I thought it'd be interesting just to do this different route. And the plan is then tomorrow I have a 29 kilometer hike and quite a steep climb, over 1,000 meters to climb tomorrow, staying in a little place by myself, well, not with people I've been travelling with. And then the day after that, Friday, I will reach Sarria, where hopefully I will also meet up with other people I've been journeying with these last 2-3 weeks. And Sarria marks the last 100 kilometers to Santiago. So got really mixed feelings about that. The end of the Camino is getting closer, so my plan is to go beyond Santiago to Finisterre, so that's another 4 days I think hiking. I'm also giving very serious consideration to going down to Porto in Portugal, and possibly walking from Porto back to Santiago, which takes I think 10 to 12 days. That's assuming I have time though. But at the moment I'm just heading up the hill. It's quite cool today, overcast, but at the moment it's dry, so I hope it will remain that way for the duration of the day. So I thought I'd just pause to show the view. So if I turn the camera around, there's Villafranca down there in the distance. You can just make out the castle overlooking the town. Lovely little location. And then down there's the valley and the path that most people will be taking. And I'm just gently winding my way up the hill. You get a fantastic view from here down into the valley and down to the town, and I don't know if you can make it out, but if you look very carefully at the road you can see a line of peregrinos, pilgrims, making their way up the valley. But I get a bird's eye view from here and it's really beautiful. Very glad I took this route. Today is day 25 of walking the Camino for me. Obviously you can walk the Camino at your own pace. Some people walk 30 kilometers or more a day. Generally speaking, I think I've been averaging about 25 kilometers a day. Some days more, some days a little bit less, but 25 is pretty good, especially when the weather's hot, because you set off in the morning and after you've walked about 6 hours it can get very hot, and you know it's just not very nice walking in the heat of the day. At the moment though it's quite cool, so I think for me doing more than 25-30 kilometers actually wouldn't be a problem at all. But I thought it might just be a good opportunity to reflect on my Camino experience so far, and I think I would say that it has exceeded my expectations. It has been an amazing experience. Santiago is not that far away. I think it's maybe 7-8 days from here, based on the schedule I have. And I'll be honest, I don't want it to end. I've got so used to this life of getting up in the morning, walking, having breakfast, you know, just the whole Camino experience. But also you meet some just amazing people from all around the world, and because they're doing the Camino as well, there's something that links you together. You have this shared experience, and I don't think you can fully appreciate it or understand it unless you do the Camino yourself. And lots of people say that the Camino is addictive, and I've certainly met people who've done the Camino many times, and I can totally understand why it's addictive. In fact, I just want to keep on doing the Camino. So yeah, you meet loads of amazing people. People walk the Camino for all sorts of different reasons. Some are doing it for religious reasons. A lot of people seem to be doing it because they just want some space to process things, to maybe seek a new direction for their lives. The Camino itself, the Camino Frances route, which I can only comment on this one, is really beautiful. I'm really glad I've done it. The landscape changes, but of course you're walking 500 miles through northern Spain, so it shouldn't be a surprise. But there's something really special about travelling through an area on foot at a slow pace rather than in a car rushing past. So it's wonderful. There have been some hardships on the Camino. I mean, physical hardships. And you know, most people you'll speak to will have suffered some form of physical ailment, whether that be blisters or shin splints, or you know, other problems, back problems with carrying rucksacks and so forth. But that's part of the course. I think the thing I found the hardest though at the Camino is that you meet people, you make a connection with them, and then sometimes you don't see them again for maybe days, or maybe you don't see them again at all because everyone's on a different schedule, and that's really hard. So you know, I've met people, I've connected with them, and yet they've sort of either gone ahead of me or I've gone ahead of them, and I don't know if I'll meet with them again. And that's one of the things I found really challenging about the Camino. And it's a lot of new meetings, you meet new people each day, but it's also lots of saying goodbye to people, and you don't know if you're going to see them again or not. So that actually for me has been like the hardest thing of the Camino. But the actual routine of the Camino, getting up each day, walking, I've loved it. And I think for me, as I think about going home, you know, I'm just thinking, well, what's life going to be like when I go home? You learn to live very simply on the Camino. You carry everything with you, everything that I need in my rucksack. I've sent quite a lot of stuff home to lighten my bag, and yeah, you just learn to live simply, and it's really liberating. The other thing is, sometimes on this Camino I've pre-booked accommodation, and sometimes I haven't. Now, particularly as I head towards Syria in the final 100 kilometres, I think pre-booking may be important, may be necessary, because it's very busy. But actually there's a real freedom in not having to book accommodation. So, you know, at the moment I've booked my next 2 nights accommodation, and if I'm honest, I prefer, or I wish I hadn't done that, because I feel I'm tied down to that now. Whereas just to be able to walk and then decide where you're going to stop, dependent on the weather, dependent on how you're feeling, dependent on other people, there's a real freedom in that. It's really liberating. So I would say if you can do the Camino without pre-booking, that can be really great. Also, the issue when you book the Camino, or you pre-book, is it does tie you down, and you just don't know how you're going to be. You know, one day you might feel physically fine and you might be able to go over 30 kilometers. The next day you might struggle to do 10 kilometers. You just don't know. But as I say, I've done a mixture of not booking, and pre-booking, and so far I've managed to find accommodation. There's one day where it looked like we were going to struggle and I might have to go on to the next village, but it was okay in the end. So yeah, for me the Camino experience has been so enriching, much better than I thought. And spiritually, I've just, I can't say I've had any great revelation from God during doing the Camino, but you spend a lot of time just reflecting, observing nature as you walk, and that's been really wonderful, really beautiful. But also I've just enjoyed listening to my phone, listening to morning prayer on my phone, listening to worship songs, and just praying as I go along, and that for me has been really enriching. The one thing I would say I have found surprising, two things actually. First of all, many of the people doing the Camino, not many of them are doing it for religious reasons. In fact, I'd say the vast majority of them aren't doing it for religious reasons at all. So I did expect more people to be doing the Camino because of religious reasons. But also the other thing that surprised me is along the Camino, you're obviously passing lots of churches. A lot of these churches are locked. Not all of them, but many of them. In fact, I'd say the majority of them are. And also, the churches themselves are in a pretty dilapidated state, or some of them are. And I think that surprised me. I was expecting all the churches to be unlocked, particularly along the Camino route. And, bearing in mind, people are just following a very a clear path, clearly defined path. And you think that the churches on the path would be open. And I must admit, I found that sad, actually. I found it sad that lots of the churches are closed. And it's been sad to see the dilapidated state of the churches. But I suppose in one sense that reflects the challenge of the church here in Spain, the challenge of the church in Western Europe. And also I think maybe it's a reflection on the fact that if it weren't for the Camino, I think a lot of these places that we're walking through would really struggle. There's been a move away from the countryside in Spain, as there have been in many other countries, to the cities, and it's created massive problems for these villages. And actually, if it were not for the Camino, I think many of these villages in northern Spain would really struggle. So the Camino is bringing people in from all around the world, and this is a lifeline, an economic lifeline for these villages. So yeah, some of my reflections on the Camino. So I hope that's helpful. Sorry if it's a bit waffly, but it's just good to share. It's good to process some of my thoughts, particularly as I'm now walking along this rather beautiful stretch through these pine forests, and there's no one else here. And actually that's a real, it's lovely walking with people, it's lovely being part of a crowd, but actually it's nice as well to have times when you're by yourself and it's silent. And I'm particularly trying to maybe make most of that opportunity now before I hit Sarria in 2 days' time, because most people, vast majority of people, only do the last 100 kilometers of the Camino from Sarria to Santiago, because if you do that distance then you can get your pilgrim certificate at the end. So it's much busier. In fact, I'll be honest, I'm not really looking forward to it. I mean, it may not be as bad as I think it will be, but the idea of just having crowds and crowds of people really doesn't appeal to me. So getting out in the woods, being by myself, is wonderful. It's also one of the reasons why I'm planning to go to Finisterre, because Finisterre not only marks the end of the route, literally used to be believed to be the edge of the world, the end of the world, but also I'm expecting that stage from Santiago to Finisterre to be very different, maybe a bit more relaxed, a bit quieter. I've spoken to some people who are doing what I'm planning to do, walking it. Quite a lot of people are talking about busing it from Santiago, which you can do very easily and very cheaply. But for me, I just want to walk there. Then I can say I've walked right across northern Spain. and I don't know, something about getting to Finisterre that would mark for me a good ending to this pilgrimage, or certainly this stage of the pilgrimage. We'll see what happens after that. But yeah, if you're thinking about doing the Camino, if you're not sure about whether to do it or not, I would just say go ahead and do it. I've met people of all ages, young people, old people, fit people, not so fit people. I've met people in their 80s doing the Camino, you know. So if you're thinking about doing it, I'd say just do it, give it a go. Honestly, it's an amazing experience. At Vega de Valcarce, we had one of our most enjoyable overnight stops. The host cooked dinner for us and then brought out homemade wine and spirits, and we danced the night away.